You said before that you lost faith in the Lions' direction at the time. How does it feel that they were able to turn it around?
There's still unfinished business, right? But not too far behind Philly, who won it all last year. You would think that the Lions are right there at the top of, the group.
You've spoken highly of Saquon Barkley. He's on the Madden cover. Do you think he's one of the era's defining backs? What makes him stand out for you?
Oh, absolutely. He's certainly one of the era's defining backs. With going over 2,000 yards last year, but to see him have a historic year last year and help his team win the Super Bowl.
Derrick Henry has been breaking records. Where does he stand in the GOAT conversation for you?
In the GOAT conversation, I think he's still writing that. But I think if he continues on at the pace that he has been on, then I think he's right in there.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Hall of Fame running back for the Detroit Lions, author, businessman, father. What a life, man. That's what it's all about. Barry Sanders in the house. Great to see you, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Really a pleasure to speak to you. For you, I got to always ask everybody, what is it about this game that you love that's become such a big part of your life and you became a legend of the sport?
Well, for me, just I had a natural love and passion for it. Just always enjoyed it, no matter whether it was in my backyard or playing with teammates, or in an organized situation. Just love being on the field, playing different positions, the competition. I think there's so many things that go along with it. The discipline and focus, and you're playing with friends, and you become friends with guys sometimes over a lifetime. So just so many great things, and you're competing with guys, and that kind of thing. And sometimes you even become friends with guys that you were the biggest rivals against, and just stuff like that. So there's so many things about it. But those are some of the reasons why I still love it to this day.
You've achieved so much in the sport, but a year ago, you had a scare, right? A heart attack that you thought was heartburn. How did that affect your approach to health? And as a dad, how big of a wake-up call was that?
Oh, it was a huge wake-up call, honestly. And I represent just a lot of people who don't understand heart issues, and I didn't understand my, LDL-C and bad cholesterol and things like that. That's why I encourage everyone to go out and have that conversation with your doctor, about bad cholesterol, about your LDL-C, and understanding what your number is, right? And understand conversations surrounding heart issues, right? Because it impacts so many people. The numbers are staggering, and so yeah, I was on a recruiting trip with my son, and I woke up that morning and had that burning in my chest, and just thought it was something else, like you said, heartburn. And eventually, I drove myself to a hospital, and they kind of figured out what it was, but it was really a learning experience, and yeah, and so too many people are impacted by it, and hopefully, through just my process, I can spread the word, and encourage people to get out there, take care of themselves, have that conversation with their doctor. It's a really important conversation to have, and so that's why I'm happy to be here talking about it.
You're working with Amgen around LDL-C and wellness initiatives surrounding it. What was more surprising for you, that being an elite athlete, that could be an issue for you, or just how common it is for everybody?
Well, I think what was surprising for me is just that those unseen risk factors that impact so many people, and so that's one of the things that applied to me, right? And I thought I was relatively healthy, and so that's one of the things that stands out in my mind. And even like, the documentary that I'm a part of, there's some just great stories, where, not everyone, it's kind of a similar thread where not everyone, they didn't know what was really happening with them initially. Right. And so, yeah, for me, that was the biggest thing, like, just understanding that the conversation surrounding it, that you educate yourself, that yes, I was one of those many people walking around not understanding, what LDLC was, what bad cholesterol was, and how important it is to really become aware of those things.
You shocked some people when you retired at 30. I believe you said my desire to exit the game is greater than my desire to remain in it now, 25 years on. Does that decision still sit right with you when you look back?
Yeah, um, I'm proud of the decision that I made. I'm happy that I had the sort of mindset, to walk away from the game at that point in time. I don't regret it. It was a tough thing to do, honestly. Tough thing to, for a lot of reasons. I do miss the game to some degree, but yeah, I think those words still pretty much ring true.
You came close to breaking Walt Payton's rushing record before you retired. Is there anything you would change?
I don't know. I mean, I love watching Walter as a kid. I never would have imagined that my name would be mentioned in the same name as his, in the same sentence as his. So I think being so for me, that in itself is almost an accomplishment. Not to avoid the question, but yeah. And so I felt like, being in that, I think when I retired, I was number 3 or number 2 on the list or something like that. And yeah, I don't have any regrets as far as that. I mean, you could always say, yeah, and even in recent years, I've dropped down a few notches on that list, right? It's still a great list to be a part of. And no, I mean, it would have been nice to probably win a few more games and win a few more playoff games and play in the Super Bowl and things like that. I mean, if I were making a list, right? I mean, I don't know if it would be. I would have to put those things probably before, Walter Payton's record.
You said before that you lost faith in the Lions' direction at the time. How does it feel that they were able to turn it around?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a long time coming. It's great to see where the franchise is currently. Just to see the strides they've made over the recent years. There's still unfinished business, right? But not too far behind Philly, who won it all last year. You would think that the Lions are right there at the top of, the group when it comes to the teams from the NFC who has a chance, who may be the favorite this season, and so they got quite a schedule this year, but yeah, it's speaking for a lot of Lions fans. It's a long time coming, and it's really great to see them, be able to reward the fans who have been so loyal, right, for so many years, and just to see where the franchise has come from, right? I mean, because I don't know what was it, '09, where they went 0-16 or something like that, and so many bad seasons, right, and bad players and just disappointments, right? I mean, so yes, it's amazing to see, and I think that with the group we have now in the building, then I think they're just getting started, right? I think there's a lot more for them to accomplish.
How much credit do you give Dan Campbell and the leadership for the culture shift?
Oh yeah, well you give Coach Campbell all the credit, right? I mean, every year he's been there, you've seen like improvement. You see how he does business. You see how he treats the players, how he is able to get players to respond. And the culture change, he's changed the game in a lot of ways, right? No one 20 years ago would say, yeah, I'm going to go for it on fourth down every time, or 75% of the time, whatever it is, right? I mean, that was, there's certain great coaches that are rolling over in their grave, like what is this guy doing? But that's what it's taken, right? To, part of what it's taken to get the Lions back, being relevant, and that kind of thing has instilled certain confidence, I think, in players, right? So he deserves all the credit. And then you think about Brad Holmes and Coach Campbell, but certainly Coach Campbell deserves the bulk of the credit there.
As one of the greatest running backs ever, how do you view today's NFC North backfields? We've got guys like Josh Jacobs, Jahmyr Gibbs, DeAndre Swift, and Aaron Jones all offering different styles.
Oh yeah, and don't forget about the two-headed monster in Detroit, right? Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I think that the running back position in the division is solid, right? And you got some real players, some real contributors there. And you see that every Sunday. Pretty much all those guys you mentioned had 1,000 yards or have had 1,000 yards at some point in their season and in their career. So it's really, I haven't looked up and down every division, but I mean, you would think that's one of the better running back groups as far as a single division. And so you see how competitive the division is, right? With, look out last year with the Lions at, 14-3 and the Vikings right there. And Packers not far behind that. I mean, so it's very competitive. And then obviously with the Bears, taking, getting our offensive coordinator, got a, young up and coming quarterback. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things are going to be competitive and up for grabs and but it makes the division very exciting.
Gibbs has got a lot of praise in Detroit. Is there anything for you that makes him stand out or reminds you of your own Lions days?
Oh, well, the kid, I mean, he has that kind of skill set. He's electric. He's dynamic, right? It's hard to get a hand on him. So I feel like he's probably a lot faster than I was. He maybe not as much side to side stuff, but he has a great offensive line, and he has a great sort of, he has a great sort of support system there in the running back room with David Montgomery, right? They're a great duo. But I see some things. I mean, I see some things that are similar probably between him and myself, just with, being kind of slippery, not the biggest guys. His game is more of a speed game, and so I think there's some similarities there.
You've spoken highly of Saquon Barkley. He's on the Madden cover. Do you think he's one of the era's defining backs? What makes him stand out for you?
Oh, absolutely. He's certainly one of the era's defining backs. With going over 2,000 yards last year, just even his year with the Giants, right? He wasn't in a great situation, obviously, but to see him be have a historic year last year and help his team win the Super Bowl, and you mentioned the Madden cover, and just the dynamic plays that he made last year, just highlight what kind of a player he is, how valuable he is, but between him and Derrick Henry, they're probably the two best running backs in the NFL.
His viral hurdle against the Jaguars was iconic. What was your reaction to that play? And does he remind you of anyone from your era?
I think, well, yeah, I mean, that was an amazing play. Just his awareness, and just being able to pull something like that off in the middle of, against the best players in the world, I mean, it's something special and unique, right? But it just goes to show you, if you put great players in the right situation, what can happen, right? So does he remind me of someone from my era? I think some people have probably compared the two of us, and I think he's a throwback to that era because he's certainly a guy you can give the ball to 25 times a game, and you're going to get your money's worth.
Derrick Henry has been breaking records. Where does he stand in the GOAT conversation for you?
In the GOAT conversation, I think he's still writing that, but I think if he continues on at the pace that he has been on, then I think he's right in there. I think for Derrick, there's been no more dominant player in the NFL other than a handful of players other than Derrick. You look at just what the resources it takes to stop him for a defense, then yeah, he very well could be in that GOAT conversation. He's, like I said before, he's between him and Saquon, they're the best running backs in the game. And it was just a few short years ago where Derrick eclipsed 2,000 yards. Him moving over to the Ravens, he's only going to be more dominant. He won some meaningful playoff games. That one year they knocked off the Super Bowl champs when he was with the Titans. But yeah, so I think he's right up there with the best players, regardless of position, in this league. It's just a matter of whether his team is going to win the big one or not. But he's certainly up there. He's like a modern day Jim Brown.
We've seen running backs often struggle to tie down long-term deals. We spoke to Austin Eckler recently, Barkley, Jacobs as well. Do you think the position's undervalued in the modern NFL?
I think it has been. I haven't studied it. I think it has been. I think what Saquon did last year should send a message that the right player is certainly worth his value. And he's worth his, he's worth that benefit to whatever team he's on. I don't want to say all running backs should be treated equal. Some are difference makers. But the ones that are should be compensated for it. And like I was saying about Derrick Henry, I don't think that there are very many players in this league since he's been a starter, other than like Patrick Mahomes and a few, maybe another guy or two who's been more dominant than Derrick Henry from the running back position, right? And so it doesn't matter that he's not a quarterback. I think he's just, that kind of a difference maker on Sunday. I think Saquon was that kind of a difference maker last year, right? There aren't many quarterbacks who have better years than the kind of years Saquon had last year. So I just think you have to play it sort of a case-by-case basis. But I think Saquon, with what he did, definitely changes the conversation about running backs and continue, I think the pendulum has kind of swung back to, my era where running backs were much more valuable.
Legend of the game, Barry. We could speak to you all day. I really appreciate you sharing the wisdom with us. Thank you so much. And all the very best to you for the rest of the year.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Remember, attackheartdisease.com and have people go and get their LDLC tested and have those conversations with the doctors.
Maximum respect. Thank you so much.